The shadow on Highway 41, asterisk, I don't talk about that night anymore. Not to my friends, not to my family, not even to myself in those dark hours when sleep refuses to come and memories creep in like a draft through a cracked window. I've spent months telling myself that what happened on Highway 41 in northern Wisconsin was stress, exhaustion, tricks of the mind. But deep down beneath the layers of denial I've built, I know it was real. Every second of it. Every cold breath. Every shadow. Every impossible moment. And I'm writing this because, if I don't, I'll eventually convince myself it never happened, and I can't let that happen. Not again. Asterisk, it began on a freezing November evening. I was driving from Duluth to Milwaukee for a company meeting. I didn't even want to attend. Midwest highways in the winter are gloomy at best and terrifying at worst. The sky looked like steel, perfectly flat, a lid clamped over the world. My car heater rattled like it was dying. The radio kept losing signal, and the windshield fogged constantly. Typical long drive misery. Asterisk, I'd been on the road for hours when I reached a tiny town called Harper's Hill. I'd never heard of it before, which isn't unusual. Wisconsin is full of towns that barely exist on the map, but something about the place immediately felt different. It wasn't the size, it was the atmosphere. The gas station at the edge of town looked like it had been standing for 100 years. Leaning slightly like the cold was pushing it down. A single yellow light above the door flickered like it was losing a battle against the night. Asterisk, I pulled in because I needed coffee to stay awake. Inside, the store was dim, almost unnaturally quiet. The clerk behind the counter looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Patchy beard, tired eyes, pale skin. He didn't even glance up when the bell above the door dinged. Asterisk, I grabbed a coffee, jerky, and some painkillers, mostly just to justify the stop. When I placed everything on the counter, the clerk finally looked at me. Asterisk, driving tonight? He asked, voice scratchy like he'd gone hours without speaking. Asterisk, yeah, I said, trying to sound casual. Asterisk, he exhaled a short, humorless laugh. Don't stay on 41 too late. Asterisk, I forced a small smile. Yeah, why's that? Asterisk, he seemed to regret saying it the moment the words left his mouth. His face stiffened. Asterisk, Bat Road, he said after a pause. Lots of accidents. Asterisk, I didn't ask more. I should have. I paid, thanked him, and walked back out to my car, chalking his words up to small-town superstition. But right before I pulled onto the road again, something made me glance in the rearview mirror. He was standing outside now, just standing, watching me leave. Asterisk, not waving, not smoking, just staring with an unreadable expression, like he knew something. I didn't. Asterisk, I tried to shake off the unease. People in small towns are quirky. Weirdness is practically their culture. So I drove on, heading back into the dark, empty stretch of Highway 41. Forest on both sides. No houses, no cars, no lights, except my own. Just miles of nothing. Asterisk, it must have been around 11 p.m. when I saw her, a woman standing on the shoulder. At first I thought I imagined her. The highway was deserted, the sky moonless, and my headlights had that narrow tunnel effect where everything outside the beam looked swallowed by darkness. But then the light caught her pale face, dark coat, hair hanging in front of her eyes. Asterisk, I slowed down before I could talk myself out of it. My heart beat faster. Not from fear, but from the instinctive unease of seeing a lone woman on a winter highway with no car, no bag, no scent. She looked like she'd been standing there forever. Asterisk says. I pulled closer. She lifted her head. Asterisk, her face was so pale it almost glowed. But it wasn't the color that scared me, it was the emptiness in her expression. Her eyes weren't begging for help or filled with fear. They weren't crying. They were just blank. Asterisk, I rolled the passenger window down, letting freezing air slap me in the face. Asterisk, you okay? I called out. Nothing. You need a ride. I tried again. Still nothing. I should have driven away. I should have pretended I didn't see her. But guilt is a stupid, heavy thing. It drags you toward danger with the weight of obligation. Asterisk, I put the car in park and stepped out. The cold cut through my jacket instantly, making my breath cloud in front of me. Asterisk, ma'am, I said softly. Asterisk, she didn't look at me. She turned her head toward the forest across the highway as if she were listening to something. Her body was stiff, tense, like she expected something to emerge from the darkness. Asterisk, we can call someone, I offered. The police? An ambulance? Asterisk, she didn't respond. Asterisk, I stepped closer. Are you hurt? Asterisk, she finally moved, slowly lifting an arm and pointing straight toward the dark line of trees. Not a panicked gesture, not a plea, a warning. Asterisk, I stared into the forest, squinting. The night swallowed everything past the first row of trees. Asterisk, is someone out there? I asked. She nodded once. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Who? But she didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, barely audible. Don't look. Asterisk, I blinked. The words were barely out of my mouth when a sound came from the forest. A branch snapping, asterisk, then another. Asterisk, footsteps. Heavy, slow, measured. The kind of footsteps that belonged to someone who wasn't trying to hide, but wasn't in any hurry either. Asterisk, the woman shook her head violently. Get in the car, she whispered. Get in now. Asterisk, what about you? I said. Asterisk, she looked at me with sudden clarity, fear flashing in her eyes for the first time. You already did, she said quietly. I didn't have time to process that. The footsteps reached the edge of the trees, close enough that I could hear deep crunching in the snow. Something or someone was coming toward the road. Asterisk instinct took over. I ran to the car, jumped in, slammed the door, and locked it. My heart hammered against my ribs. My breath fogged the windshield. I wiped it with my sleeve, hands trembling. Asterisk, the woman was still standing there, still staring, still pointing. Asterisk, then, from the shadows of the forest, something stepped out. A tall figure, unnaturally tall, 6'5", maybe 6, wearing a hooded brown coat caked with mud and ice. The hood hid his face almost completely, but I could see the outline of his jaw, sharp, too sharp. Asterisk, he stood on the opposite side of the road, facing the woman. Asterisk, I could feel the air inside my car change thick, heavy, suffocating. Asterisk, when the figure stepped into the center of the road, I slammed the gas pedal. My tires screeched. The car lurched forward. I didn't wait, didn't think. I just drove. The figure didn't move. He just stood there, watching me approach. Asterisk, at the last second, I swerved, barely avoiding him. For a moment, he was directly beside my window. I couldn't see his face, but I could feel his presence wrong. Unnatural, cold against my skin. Asterisk, after I passed him, I checked the rearview mirror. He was gone. The woman was gone too. Asterisk, My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the wheel with both just to stay in control. I drove faster and faster. Mile after mile. Snow blowing across the road. The forest blurring past me. My own breathing sounding too loud inside the car. Asterisk, I didn't slow down until I saw a sign. I had a small reflective green highway marker. Asterisk, but when I read it, my stomach dropped. Harper's Hill 2 miles. That wasn't possible. Asterisk, I'd been driving away from Harper's Hill for nearly an hour. Asterisk, I must have misread it. I wiped my eyes, leaned closer, staring at the sign as it passed. Harper's Hill 2 miles, the same exact sign. Asterisk, no, I whispered. No, that's wrong. That's maybe. There's another Harper's Hill. Or I got turned around. Or asterisk, but the GPS on my phone showed no signal. The clock on my dashboard still said 11:07 p.m. Asterisk, I'd been driving for an hour. But the time hadn't moved. Asterisk, the road hadn't moved. And then I saw him, in the rearview mirror. Asterisk, the tall figure stepped into the road behind me, standing perfectly still, exactly in the center of the lane, facing me. Asterisk, my throat tightened. Tears burned behind my eyes. I floored the accelerator. The world blurred. The car shook. Ice spat from under my tires. Asterisk, but every time I checked the mirror, he was there, standing, waiting, watching. Asterisk, eventually, the road curved, and the forest opened up enough for me to see the faint glow of streetlights in the distance. Asterisk, Harper's Hill. Again. My car slowed on its own, like it knew where I was meant to end up. I pulled into the same gas station I'd left earlier, tires crunching on the gravel. Asterisk, the yellow light above the door flickered the same way. The store looked identical. Too identical. Like the world was stuck on repeat. Asterisk, the clerk was standing outside again, as if he'd been waiting. I stumbled out of my car. You have to help me, I said, voice breaking. There's someone out there. He keeps appearing on the road, behind my car, outside my window. I can't get away. The road keeps looping. I keep ending up here. I don't know what's happening. Asterisk, the clerk stared at me with something like dread. Not fear of me, fear for me. You picked her up, he said quietly. I shook my head. No, she wouldn't get in the car. Asterisk, that's worse. Asterisk, what is what is happening? Asterisk, he didn't answer. He just looked past me. Asterisk, he's here. I turned. The tall figure was standing at the edge of the parking lot. Not approaching. Not hiding. Just watching with that hood pulled low over his face. Asterisk, who is he? I whispered. Asterisk, the clerk exhaled a long, tired breath. He comes when someone dies on 41, he said. Always has. Asterisk, my skin went numb. Who died? The clerk looked at me with an expression that told me the truth before he said it. You did? Asterisk, I felt the world tilt. No, I didn't. I'm here. I'm talking to you. I drove. Asterisk, you think you did, he said gently. But your body's still in the car. In the ditch. You fell asleep at the wheel before you reached town. Asterisk, I shook my head violently. No, I got out. I talked to the woman. Asterisk, she died on the same bend. Years ago. She tries to warn people like you. Asterisk, my knees weakened. My breaths came short and fast. Asterisk, so what does he want? I whispered. Asterisk. He keeps the dead from pretending they're alive, the clerk said. He makes sure you don't leave until you accept it. Asterisk. I backed away, shaking my head. No. Stay away from me. Asterisk. The figure drifted closer, silent, effortless. I could hear nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no rustling clothes. He stopped right in front of me. Slowly. He lowered his hood. I screamed, or thought I did. No sound came out. Asterisk. His face wasn't decomposed or bloody. It was worse, smooth, pale, too perfect, like wax stretched over a skull. His eyes were empty black pits. His mouth a long, carved smile. Not joyful, not alive. Just permanent. Asterisk. He leaned close to my ear and whispered something I can't repeat. Not because I don't remember. Because remembering hurts? Everything went black. I woke only once after that. Just long enough to hear voices above me. Flashlights. Police radios. Someone saying, "We found the body." My body. The newspaper. Later, said a man from Duluth died in a late-night crash. Lost control on icy pavement. Slid into a ravine. They think it was quick. It wasn't. I'm still there. Still stuck on Highway 41. Still driving that endless loop. Still seeing 11:07 p.m. frozen on the dashboard. Asterisk. Still watching the tall figure appear behind me every time. I try to escape. Asterisk. And sometimes, when the air gets cold enough and the road gets quiet enough, I see headlights in the distance. A car like yours, slowing down, stopping for the woman on the shoulder. And I know, asterisk, you'll never leave Highway 41 either. Not now. Not ever, asterisk.